Hello, and welcome to Change the Face of Yoga, teaching toddlers through golden oldies. I'm very excited to be talking to lots of yoga teachers who will explain their passion for teaching yoga to students with different ages, physical fitness levels, wellness levels, and different goals. They will explain the benefits of yoga for these students and will be including teacher tips and pose modifications. I am Stephanie Cunningham of Yoga Lightness, and I've been teaching over 50s for 10 years. So this area is my passion and the passion of many other yoga teachers that you will be listening to in this series. Thank you so much for listening, and let's get started. Hello, this is Changing the Face of Yoga, and I have a great guest today. Her name is Beth Spindler. Beth has over 4 decades of experience in utilizing yoga as a healing modality, plus the highest certification in her field. Her book, Yoga Therapy for Fear, Treating Anxiety, Depression, and Rage with the Vagus Nerve and Other Techniques, is recognized in the yoga therapy community as a text for those studying in the field. She is frequently a featured writer and presenter for Yoga International and leads retreats worldwide. And this is the thing I didn't know. Beth also has a long history of using sound as a healing modality and was a professional jazz vocalist for 35 years. Welcome, Beth. And I'm very excited that you are a jazz vocalist. That sounds so interesting.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'm glad to be here. Yeah. While I I'm not performing a lot of late. I do get to jump back in occasionally now. But,
I think that's exciting. I'd love to hear that someday. Okay, so our theme this month is the more subtle aspects of yoga, and as Beth is an expert in using the sounds of her voice and other issues. She's going to talk to us about chanting and how that helps in the healing efforts of yoga. So, Beth, do you actually use it in class, or is it more just using the concepts of the sound to help in the healing of yoga?
Yeah, when appropriate, I do incorporate chant, and I use, of course, techniques like Bhramari breath, the humming, the bumblebee breath, a lot, and that's a good way to introduce people to it. And certainly, when I'm doing groups that I sense there might be that allergy to things of a spiritual nature, I keep it pretty secular. You know, I'm not going to be introducing the names of deities and that kind of thing that might ruffle some feathers initially. But I find that people love the practice once they loosen up a little bit about it. But I'd like to start with just humming, and sometimes I'll do that even when they're in Shavasana or lying down for Shavasana, just to help them kind of sort of hum away any tension. It's a nice way for people to relax, and they don't know that. This is Nada yoga. Nada yoga it's an ancient Indian metaphysical system, and it's philosophical. It's a medicine. And it's a form of yoga. Nada is its own category. So yeah, I because of the powerful nature of using vibration, that helps ground and center people and helps them connect with sound energy that is individual and can heal issues. I think it's a very important part of yoga that often will worry that we're going to put people off by that, so we avoid it.
Yeah, I think that's true. Do you use when you decide to do chanting, do you use the Indian chants, or do you ever use one in English or something like that?
Generally, I'll use Sanskrit because of the nature of Sanskrit. The words themselves are vibrational in nature, and for instance, when we're going through the sounds of the chakras, even the names of the chakras have the vibrational quality of when we say Muladhara, Muladhara. It reverberates at that point in the body of the root chakra. People can really get a handle on how that feels by taking the word for the eyebrow chakra, which is actually located more toward the center of the head, and use the sound agya, 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 agya. They'll repeat that. You're going to feel that vibration right above the soft palate, right in the center of the mind, where that the sound vibrates. And I'd invite people listening to try repeating it in that way, that agya, 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 and setting up that vibration, because it's a good way to tune in. Also, we use sound in ways like Ujaii breath. Ujaii breath is another way to help set up that vibration there above the soft palate that impacts areas of the brain that may need stimulation. So I also work with a friend of mine is a sound therapist, and the things that she can pick up from voice analysis, she uses computer and voice analysis. I'll plug Annie. This is Annie Palmer, and she uses voice analysis on the computer, and she can pick up things in your voice like hormone imbalances. She can tell you what medications you're on based on the sound of your speaking voice.
Wow.
Yeah, she can pick up osteoporosis. She can pick up. I mean, it's just remarkable what she's able to discern from the sound of the voice. But we've become so disconnected from using the voice for healing. Historically, every culture has used singing and music as a healing modality. And we're disconnected.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see where we are. We're all kind of with our little iPhones, aren't we, looking at that and typing with our thumbs, but that we don't speak as much as we used to. Where do you start the class with some sound kind of vibration work, or is that working through the whole entire class?
When I'm teaching workshops more often, I'll start with something like the teacher-student prayer and have the group join me in 3 ohms at the beginning and 3 ohms at the end. And most of the time, if they know the teacher-student chant, I invite them to join. But it's people often respond really well to it.
Okay. Do you find that you do have some pushback, shall we say, in a general yoga class to chanting, or do people, obviously yoga is kind of different for everyone, and so it takes a while to get everything going, but do they like the chanting? I personally have absolutely no musical ability, so I hate chanting because I don't know what I'm doing. But I'm just wondering if, how do you, if you're like me, if you have no musical ability, do you suggest just using the ohms and the Ujjayi breath and those things to help people get that
Yeah, and Bhramari again is a really good way, just giving people the cue that that the tone doesn't have to match the one I'm singing. Start with something in a comfortable register for you, and people find it very interesting. An exercise I'll often do, especially in a workshop setting, but it amazes people, is if groups are comfortable with a partnering situation, which not every group is. And certainly if I'm working in a trauma setting or whatever, we're not going to probably do partner anything. But if people are, usually with groups of teachers who are a little more open. And I've done it with public groups and they've loved it, especially if it was kind of a friends group that's been together for a long time. Mm-hmm. But taking one partner and placing fingers on either side of the chest, and inviting them to find a tone that rumbles in their chest, and then try to center that tone, bring it to the middle of the body, and have the partner say it's more toward the front, it's more toward the back. You're getting it, and they can refine that tone until it vibrates in the center of the chest. Then move to the throat area and notch of the throat and the back of the neck, and have them vibrate there, or up in the head. Now, the head tone often sounds like a mosquito, kind of like, but it doesn't have to be a perfect B flat. Each person can find that and see if they can set up that vibration in the head. And I was told, when I was doing teacher training, I had a neurologist who would come to the class and offer lectures sometimes, Dr. Sripada. And he was an Alzheimer's specialist. Mm-hmm. And he said, if I could get my patients to use vibration and find that vibration that moves up into the head that way, he said, they wouldn't need Aricept. He said, you could break up plaques.
Wow.
In the brain with that tone. And now yesterday, an article came out that details how they are eliminating beta amyloid plaques in the brains of mice with a combination of sound and light.
How exciting. I mean, really.
Yeah, it is. We have this ability to heal and release those beta amyloid plaques, and I think it's pretty exciting, especially at my age. Mine
also.
And I have I have a family history of Alzheimer's, and so it's one of those lurking little fears there in the back, and so I do that. But you were asking about introducing sounds to the group and all. More often, I'll use bija mantras.
What are those?
Bija mantras are seed mantras, and there are bija mantras for the chakras, like the lam, bum, ram, yam, hum, soham, hamsa would be the bija mantras for each of the major chakras. Of course, there are more chakras than the seven, but those are the tones, and I'll use those. Then there are also sounds like ram, rim, ram, raha. Those are also connected to. They're the tantric mantras used for stimulating the chakras, and so those people are not as afraid of those I'd say, as they would be, say, Hare Rama or Om Namah Shivaya. People are less threatened by sounds that sound more like humming, more like just syllables. But what a bija mantra does, it's like an amplifier when you place them in a mantra. For instance, if you were chanting a Saraswati chant, you might use the bijas om and aim, like om aim saraswat ye swaha. That kind of to amplify. It's like it's a push forward of that, an intensifier. So bijas themselves are said to contain a lot of the power in the universe. The bijas are very powerful in and of themselves.
Okay. I'm going to clap. That's for my editor. I don't know what's going on, but it sounds like you're moving around a lot, or you're moving. Your microphone's picking up a lot of background noise.
I'm sorry. I could flip off my air filter over here. That might help. Okay, just one sec.
Okay.
Less noise?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry we had all that with too much noise on it.
Well, it doesn't have it wasn't interfering with your voice. It's just I try to keep it as good as possible. With Mercury retrograde, what the heck,
Yeah.
That'll all go out. Okay, so do you explain to the students or to your workshop participants about why or how powerful this chanting vibration is for healing? Or
I do, and always explain. Because people want to know the science end of it. They want to hear Western medicine proof of what we're asking them to do. And I think it's incredibly important for teachers to keep up to date on current research and studies being done, because everything is being proven. We used to think that there was no, that you couldn't ever find the nadis, the meridians in the body. We thought that those weren't actual things, and then we find out about the interstitium, that this is an actual layer that runs through the fascia of the body, and these little fluid-filled compartments that they couldn't see because they were looking at dead tissue, and you could only see those in live tissue. And so they had to use microscopy and endoscopy too. They had to move through the body with a scope and in a live human body to find these, but they exist. And here we thought they were metaphysical things, that they were just something that we talked about. We knew something was going on, but the ancients knew, and so a lot of what we're doing is this gaining Western understanding of the whys of why yoga does work. So, but sound is a lot of research going on about sound.
Okay, so you're saying that your students or your participants are very open to something that has a bit more familiarity with a Western medicine context.
Yeah. If I encourage people in a way of saying, this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it, here's what research has to say about it, you ready to give it a try? I rarely have someone just sit there and and not give it a go. People are interested. So,
Okay.
and definitely, the audience is where and when to use it as it takes a little bit of viveka, a little discernment to know which group is going to dig it. You've got if you go into, for instance, if I'm going into work in a recovery center or something like that, I am not as likely to start bellowing Om the minute I walk in the door. But I might introduce humming to them at the end of the class. I might do that because it's not super threatening. Particularly if they're not looking around at each other, if they're lying down and starting to relax, and they've already done some practice and their bodies feel better, they're more likely to enjoy playing with some vocalizing at that point.
Okay.
And we say namaste at the end, and people, that sound, people resonate with it. It makes them feel more a part of what we're doing.
Okay. So if I'm kind of iffy on ohms. Sometimes I've and maybe it's just the way people present it to me or something, but sometimes they're really very comfortable and you like doing it, and sometimes you don't. Mm-hmm. Is that the vibrations, or is it the context, or? And I know I'm asking you to guess here, but what would be your best guess on that?
Yeah. I mean, we all have have moods where we're receptive and moods where we're not, and I think that it's okay if you just want to listen sometimes. If you don't feel like opening up and doing it, but you still get benefit, even if somebody, even if you're not participating. I think they get benefit. You mean as a teacher?
No, as a student or a participant. No, if I don't do ohms as a rule. Of course, I'm not teaching right now, so I change it so much that I don't know. But I just feel like sometimes it feels really, really comfortable to do it, and sometimes it feels really, really uncomfortable to do it. Now, if it's just me, that's fine because I have this musical issue. But I just wondered if sometimes, the class really responds, and sometimes they're kind of like, we have to do this,
Yeah. There's that's. I think ebb and flow. Yeah. I think everybody has days when they're feeling really yogaful. That's a good word. Yeah,
I like it.
I think it's a word. But when you're feeling in the yoga groove, and times when you're just kind of there to stretch,
Yeah.
So I think moods are what they are, and there are times I don't om at the beginning of a class. There are times that I just say, okay, here's what the class is about. We're going to lie down and constructive rest position, take a moment. And I've often said, and use the breath as mantra.
Okay.
Using the breath itself as mantra. And, or internally, because internally hearing the sound of the breath, which so hum, which is also the mantra for the Ajna chakra, one of the bijas. But it's hearing so on the inhale and hum on the exhale internally can be as powerful. That's what we call the anahata, which means unstruck sound. It's the sound that reverberates inside of us. Whereas external music is ahata.
Okay.
Ahata and anahata. And of course, the word anahata is the heart chakra.
Yeah.
Yeah, it means the unstruck sound, the sound that reverberates inside of us.
Okay. So what kind of thing you obviously work with people who you said, I think you were going to, rehabilitation places or something like that. So those people also, I'm sure, not knowing anything about what that means about rehabilitation, can also use this sound. Do they seem to feel like it's a good idea, or are they more cautious than, say, just a general yoga class?
They'll often flat out laugh, and I've learned, especially working in recovery, anything can happen, and they often will ridicule poses. They'll laugh at whatever we're doing. So you have to be cautious, and a lot of it is because they've been through trauma. Anybody in addiction has also been through trauma. You can be certain that they've experienced a lot of stuff. So they'll want to pull away from weird parts of the practice, especially, or they'll want to pull themselves out of the practice. It's that disassociation piece that will happen in that group. So same with with vocal things. They kind of like the namaste because they've seen it in movies and they've heard it on commercials now. I mean, we've certainly sold yoga all over the possible advertising world. And so, if I get to work with a group for a long period of time, which is rare, usually you have sometimes 2 weeks, sometimes, which is not enough time in recovery, but that's all, all Medicaid would cover often. I used to be able to be with them for a month at a time. And then, they start asking questions. Do we get to own? That kind of, do we get to do that? What are we going to do, that huffy puffy breath? Or are we going to do this thing? And they become more interested. But when I have people for a short period of time, I'll keep it pretty Western, and pretty clinical in terms of we're going to do this, and this is specifically for this is something that can benefit sciatica, and I know some of you have issues with that, or we're going to do back care yoga today, or we're going to do and that perks interest. Can you help me with my pain?
Mm-hmm.
Later on, if we want to refine it to things that are more subtle, like breath practices and sound practices, then they'll connect with that. But I want to give them, in those groups especially, I want to give them something really tangible that they can see. I feel better. My neck doesn't hurt anymore. My jaw is more relaxed. Something,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes sound can help those things. So, and eventually, I can get them to play.
Just take some patience.
Yeah.
And do you ever, not in your recovery classes, but in your general classes, do you ever do a full chant? I mean,
oh, sure. Yeah. And I'll do workshops at studios on nada yoga, on the yoga of sound, because it's there are many who are very interested in learning more about Sanskrit and learning more about how to use that. So general public, I used to do a lot of kirtan. I don't do that a lot right now because I'm not working with musicians, but I'll do occasionally if people are really liking something, we'll do a little call and response in kirtan style, but I don't bring my any instrumentation usually.
Okay.
I think it's wonderful when teachers do. They come in with their harmonium or whatever. I think that's very cool.
Okay, so is there anything that you feel we haven't covered in enough depth or we didn't cover at all that you would like the listeners to know about the chanting or sound therapy or in this area we've been talking about?
Yeah. I think people need to know that this is that I would like to reiterate that this is a science, that this is considered medicine as well as just a fun part of yoga, and that we can direct sound to really any area of the body that is needing vibration, and vibration is this is the origin of the cosmos, which sounds a little woo, but the sound energy in motion rather than of matter and particles that's the building blocks of the cosmos. And it's said that everything originated from sound. So when we connect to sound, even if it's just, I can remember when I was a little girl, and I loved to sing when I was a little girl, and if I was down, and I had a lot of, I would get very depressed during school, and I'd come home, and if mom saw I was really blue, she would go over to the piano and play something, and before if I could get over and sing, my mood would change. And she knew it helped me with dealing with depression. And I can't tell you how many times when I had gigs, when I'd be going out and I'd have a horrible sore throat, or I'd have an awful runny nose, and I'd think, I am just going to have to cancel. And as soon as I would get to the job and start singing, by the end of the first set, I wasn't sick. Yeah. And sometimes it was an exploration of whose voice is this, because sometimes you got the deep rumbly thing going on with a cold, but I would feel well, and it would help me heal. So even young like that, I recognize the healing qualities of vocalizing, and not just vocalizing, but listening to music. Why are they playing those music tracks in every grocery store and every place we go if they don't help people? So and
Sure.
Attract people and help us relax and elicit a response. It's the type of music they play may make us buy more stuff, but it's I think that we haven't even fully recognized the power of sound and music.
Okay. Well, thank you, because I think that makes sense to me, I guess, with my Western science background, where, the vibrations of it make it, I can understand that, because to me, given my lack of any musical ability, it just was a very embarrassing kind of thing. So I can understand that if it the vibrations could be very healing. I have a friend who does healing, and she talks about vibrations a lot. And I think that that's a really important point here, is that it is a healing modality along with much else of yoga if you use it correctly. So I really want to thank you, Beth. I think you've really added considerably to my knowledge, and I'm sure to the rest of the listeners. If you want to get a hold of Beth and see maybe if she's going to have one of these workshops, her website is teachtoinspire.com.
www.teachtoinspire.com. Otherwise, it won't go there for some reason. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
www.teachtoinspire.com. Okay.
Yeah.
Facebook is Beth Spindler Yoga Therapy, and also Teach to Inspire Yoga Education. And I have something called @Yoga Chant. Is that enough?
Yeah, that's the Facebook.
Okay.
The Teach to Inspire Facebook. Yeah.
Okay. So @Yoga Chant and Beth Spindler Yoga Therapy will get you into to Beth's Facebook group or page that is talking about this, I would think, with Yoga Chant. And again, Beth, thank you so much for this. I think you've just done a great job of explaining this, and I have a much better idea of why adding sound to our classes is a really good idea.
Yeah. Even if it's just spoken chant, it's helpful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or what was it, Anahata, where you actually it's inside chant, where you don't make a sound, but you think about it. Yeah. Right. Great. Okay. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Stephanie. Enjoyed it.
Thank you for that wonderful interview. If you would like to be a guest on Changing the Face of Yoga, please go to my website, www.yogalightness.com.au, and under the Changing the Face of Yoga tab, you can complete Be Our Guest form. After reviewing the form and finding it applicable to this podcast, we will send you a link to schedule an interview. Please download, review, and tell your friends of any podcasts that are of interest to you and to them. If you would like to contact me, send an email to info@yogalightness.com.au. And thank you for listening to Changing the Face of Yoga.